Did the Nazis really lose World War II, or did they secretly ally with the Illuminati and the reptilians that they came in contact with in Antarctica to take over the U.S. from within, starting with Project Paperclip? This video will explore this theory and hopefully add one more piece of the puzzle to the true history of our country and how we were infiltrated and who our real enemies are. Top secret Nazi maps, declassified KGB documents, confirm the existence of subterranean breakaway civilizations. One of the most interesting questions that many people have pondered over the centuries is whether our planet is at least partially hollow and inhabited. Most of us are familiar with the legendary stories about the Nazis who explored the polar regions of our planet and even created secret bases in New Schwabenland and Antarctica. These rumors are based in fact, as Nazi Germany sent an expedition to Antarctica in 1938, claimed the territory of New Swabia, and immediately began building secret deep underground bases below the ice. German Navy Grand Admiral Karl Donitz stated in 1943, the German submarine fleet is proud of having built for the Fuhrer in another part of the world a Shangri-La on land, an impregnable fortress. The Nazis continually shipped men and material to the South Pole throughout the war years and defeated a post-World War II attack by Allied forces in 1946, led by Admiral Byrd, who retreated in disgrace after suffering substantial damage and casualties. That's Operation High Jump. U.S. Admiral Richard Byrd, upon his return from a massive military expedition to Antarctica in 1947, stated it was necessary for the USA to take defensive actions against enemy air fighters which come from the polar regions. Many researchers have also published material about Operation High Jump and Admiral Byrd's journeys, where extremely advanced airships, disc-shaped UFOs, were seen flying around and even engaging him militarily. Not long ago, a top-secret map belonging to the Third Reich was recovered, in which there are several secret passages depicted which were used by German U-boats to access mysterious underground regions, as well as complete maps of both hemispheres and the mysterious kingdom of Agartha. The possibility that the Earth is hollow and that it can be accessed through the North and or South Poles, and that ancient secret breakaway civilizations flourish within it, has spurred the imagination of people for many years. Following the official end of World War II, these recently declassified maps have added fuel to the existing speculation. We have also come across a letter supposedly written by Karl Unger, who was aboard the German U-boat 209, commanded by Heinrich Broda, in which he states that the crew had reached the interior of the Earth and that they did not consider coming back. The official Nazis' instruction to reach Agartha by submarine. So basically, just this is me talking, what if this is true? That means that you can go into into the inner Earth through a submarine, which means water is underneath in pockets, like caverns. You know, like when you go to like Mammoth Caves and they have all these lakes and stuff. And if you've ever heard of China Lake, they have access from the coast for submarines to come to China Lake in the desert. So what it appears is there's a series of tunnels and stuff that can be mapped out, and submarines can go underground in the water underneath, and it could be that you can go underneath all the continents. I don't know if you know where to go. It's just a side note, but the reason I bring that up is I'm making a connection here to the Hunter Biden. He had the tattoo on his back of the Finger Lakes. One of those Finger Lakes was a place where submarines were training for the armed forces after World War II. And there's another deep, deep lake that has submarine access as well. And then you've got Ghislaine Maxwell, who has a submarine license. And we find out that submarines are being used to transport kids and stuff like that in the child trafficking realm. So there's a connection to submarines there and the under Agartha, or the under the earth, because they say it's like people thought it's just solid rock going down, but it's actually like a sponge. It has pockets like caverns, where there are, possibly breakaway civilizations or ETs hiding out, or, that sort of thing. And here's the translation in English. This is to this place called Agartha. The stories above are backed up by maps made by famous cartographer and artist Heinrich C. Baron for the National Geographic Society in 1966. In this map, the Antarctic continent can be observed without its thick layer of ice. So that's what it looks like without the ice. And you can see at one time Lemuria and Atlantis were there as well. But you can see the outline of the old continent. And it was connected to South America. And you can see that there's water, like lakes and stuff under there too. So lots of places to hide out. Here's another picture. It says, but the most intriguing detail are the presence of underwater passages spanning across the entire continent and seem to converge at the exact location, which is identified as the opening towards the hollow earth or inner earth. The earth isn't hollow. Let me make that clear. It's they're talking about the lithosphere having underneath the surface just, these caverns, these like a sponge with lots of little openings and pockets and bubbles and stuff like that. I think, that's what they mean. We still have a core and a mantle and all that. It's not that the earth is hollow. It's hollow in the sense that just underneath the surface, we've got a whole network of pockets of, caverns and waterways and like a whole world underneath the ground. And as you'll see in the video up here that I'm going to show you, it starts off by talking about something called extremophiles. And extremophiles were found first in places like caves, caverns. And it was a place where, or actually no, I'm sorry, the vents down in the ocean, magma vents down in the ocean where there's no light. And they were like organisms that were surviving on chemosynthesis, that were coming out from the vents from like the magma, and then the vents were releasing like nutrients into the water, and a whole ecosystem formed around that. And you've got, and as you know, if you've ever heard of the food chain or the food web, you have a whole ecosystem food web of animals going all the way down to your extremophile organisms that can live down underneath in where there's no sunlight in these caverns. And you could get complex if you need, there's things that creatures can live on, let's just say. It's not like it's barren down there. It is possible. And it is possible that there could be a reptilian type entity, very intelligent, living down there. And, part of the way they survived was to live off the creatures that live down into these caverns. And they probably adapted to the environment, so they don't come up to the surface, is what I'm guessing, is they can't. That's hence why they try to terraform the surface of the earth with all of this chemical spraying and stuff. It could be they're trying to make it more like what's underneath the earth so that these reptilian types, or what we call demonics, can come up. Now, I believe that the reptilians are controlled by demonics, in my opinion, by Lucifer and so forth. But that part is shady for me. I'm still working that out. Okay. So there's instructions to get to Agartha, and that all of these waterways head towards someplace in the center, which they say is an entrance into the spongy, cavernous part of the, layer of the earth. Here's another. See how all these little waterways lead to someplace in the center? And there's Lake Vostok right there. Now there's a part of the Antarctic that you cannot fly over, and you cannot, on Google Earth, they shade it out so you can't even see it. But a lot of people think that's it. Hitler was obsessed with mysticism and ancient history, and many of his followers knew that and supported him. The possibility that the Earth is at least partially hollow and that it can be accessed through the North and South poles, and that secret civilizations flourish within it, has gained popularity in recent years. It might just turn out to be true after all, that somehow and somewhere there is an access which leads to a completely different world, one that has been kept in secrecy for reasons that are just now coming to light. This is a quote from Adolf Hitler in 1945. We have invisible aircraft, submarines, unbelievably powerful rockets, and a bomb and a working that will astonish the whole world. All of my words are the purest truth that you will see. Now, as you remember, if you can recall some of the things that were said about the Third Reich, and Hitler was obsessed with the occult. So we have that occult connection, Satanism, demonics. That's not a coincidence. It's not a coincidence that satanic people have taken over our country. It's not a coincidence. It's coming from Germany. And that's where I believe that when the Nazis went down to New Schwabenland, they traded for technology with these reptilian types that live in the cavernous parts of the world. They're either the demonics or they're ETs from another place. Whatever they are, they're evil. And it could be that demonic fallen angels control them. But that part is shady. I don't know, but there is an occult connection there. Okay, so Lucifer, in my opinion, they realized that by worshiping Lucifer and feeding Lucifer and his, the reptilians and all that, loosh, fear, even, they took all those slaves with them from the concentration camps. I mean, maybe they were fed, people in a trade for technology. How did he get all this technology all at once? That's what I'm saying. He discovered this occult connection and was able to make a trade with the occult, with the Luciferian, Satanists, minions that live under the earth. The medium Maria Orsic was leader of this Vrillarian society, beautiful young ladies of the Vril, just less shot in pre-World War II Germany. The Sisters of Vril conducted research into psychic phenomenon, advanced propulsion technology, and saucer-shaped aircraft. Now, it's thought she channeled something that was giving her information on how to build a flying saucer, and they formed a society. People all over Germany that were interested in it became members. They were going to build like a flying saucer. The Nazis got wind of it, and then, took over. The Vril Society, whose members included some who were later become notable members of the Nazi Party, believed that many ancient civilizations owed their origins to refugees from Atlantis. They advanced the idea of a subterranean civilization ruled by an ancient parent race who had mastered free energy. This Aryan breakaway civilization was said to have survived the antediluvian cataclysms, which ended the Ice Age and continued to thrive below the surface of the earth. Ancient Greeks, Tibetan Buddhists, and Christians all located their iterations of hell in caverns under the mantle. Pilgrims used to journey to Station Island off the coast of Donegal, where they believed there existed an entrance to purgatory, while the old legends of Mexico describe a mountain cave near Oñajo inhabited by devilish creatures from the way down deeps. That's probably where all of our ideas of hell came from. The 18th century astronomer Royal Edmund Halley believed that unusual compass readings could be explained by the fact that the planet was composed of a hollow shell. Like I said, I don't believe that the Earth is completely hollow. I'm saying that it's the top layer has these pockets, these cavernous areas. Okay, so we've established that 1942, during the war, World War II, the Nazis began bringing stuff down to New Schwabenland. We also have established that since the late 1930s, that the Third Reich were in contact with the occult, that they had an obsession with it. They were probably channeling. They were probably doing rituals at that point, satanic rituals. They probably learned that if they do that, they get things for it, information for technology, and began using that technology. I think they also took over the Vril Society, and the channeling that was done there, they took that information. And with that, they began building flying saucers and other things.
While it is true that the sun is vital to the chain of life on the surface of our world, life also exists in places that have not been exposed to sunlight for millions, if not billions of years. Solar rays play a vital role for photosynthesis in plants, but hydrothermal vents provide heat and minerals from below the earth, which through chemosynthesis sustain extremophiles, a term for organisms that exist in extreme conditions. So for example, bacteria, which consume the minerals ejected out of these vents, become a food source for algae, which not only float on the surface water, but can also live totally independent of the sun by these hydrothermal vents, starting a food chain like here in the geothermally heated waters of Antarctica, supporting diverse organisms where sunlight is non-existent miles below the ice. There is a story about a people who broke away from their parent civilization and for whatever reason pursued a new home in harsh, icy conditions. This tribe of humans found that civilization could also be maintained from below by the volcanic thermal springs, which bring life-sustaining heat from below to subterranean caverns, even below miles of ice. The rare video that you are now looking at comes to us from scientists at the Australia Antarctic Division, who have sent a robot below the thick ice and have released this footage showing off a colorful underwater glimpse of the rarely seen Antarctic habitat. Upon first seeing this, I couldn't help but be reminded of some of the scenes from the movie Avatar, which was full of colorful blues and pinks and purples. And that's what this reminded me of instantly. New Swabia, or Neuschwabenland in German, is an area of Antarctica that was explored by the German Antarctic Expedition, which discovered ice-free areas with warm, freshwater lakes and vegetation. These discoveries led to a cryptic announcement during World War II by then German Navy Grand Admiral Karl Donitz, who in 1943 stated, and I quote, "The German submarine fleet is proud of having built for the Führer in another part of the world a Shangri-La, an impregnable fortress," end quote. While it is widely accepted that the Nazis were totally defeated with the German government's formal surrender in 1945, then Secretary of Defense James Forrestal sent a naval task force called Operation High Jump to Antarctica in 1946, after the war ended, including Admiral Nimitz, Admiral Cruzen, and Admiral Byrd, commanding over 4,700 military troops from the US, Britain, and Australia, consisting of 3 naval battle groups, supposedly conducting a science expedition. The US military and intelligence were apparently invading Antarctica in an effort to locate and destroy the immense underground facility nicknamed Base 211, allegedly constructed by the Germans before, during, and immediately after the Second World War. The possibility that the Earth contains massive subterranean caverns, or is at least partially hollow, and that ancient or modern breakaway civilizations flourish within them, has renewed people's interest in this subject, which still is considered by the media to be taboo, or fake news. But is it fake, or is history about to be rewritten?
How advanced do you believe at this point in time that German technology is? And if you can, comment about the location down in Antarctica and about some of the facilities there.
I want to make one clarification here. Germany, in its European location, is one thing, but the German colony on the South Pole, my point of line of research has been that all behind the smoke screen of the Cold War, for all these years, the Americans and Russians and the Germans in the South Polar Colony have been the best of buddies in the very secretive research of the, let's say, the alternative 3 scenario, Moon and Mars survival and evacuation colonies, or the Star Trek scenario. It's my feeling that nuclear-powered anti-gravity craft has been built for 20, maybe 30 years by the superpowers and used in outer space, interstellar exploration. Basically what we see on Star Trek. It's a reality for a limited number. So, I mean, how advanced is the German technology on the South Pole? To come back to your original question, saucers, they were very well guarded, and the Germans were preparing a retreat to the South Pole, especially after 42, when the guys with the brains in Berlin realized that they would lose the war. Anybody who knew the real industrial might of England, Russia, and United States combined realized that, I mean, what proved at the end of the war that there were 500,000 Allied planes against 100,000 German planes produced. For every German plane in the air, there were 5 Allied planes. I mean, figures that are not very often discussed in the press. So knowing this, as early as probably 42, 43, the Germans started making tremendous effort to move hundreds of thousands of people to the South Polar Colony and to keep the saucer's existence as secretive as possible. Anti-gravity is really obtained by simple spinning of any object along a vertical axis. Simple spinning of a used airplane gyroscope would reduce its weight. It's official academic scientific literature. If it is that easy to produce anti-gravity, if one would not need the fancy science fiction hardware that Bob Lazar is revealing in his film, that our government has been secretly back engineering in Nevada test site by using a hand-me-down alien technology utilizing element 115. Maybe this is a legitimate anti-gravity drive, and you can obtain anti-gravity even by this means, but normally anti-gravity is very easy to produce. If it is that easy, then you can couple every existing engine in your arsenal with spinning lenticular airframe and produce an anti-gravity craft, and the Germans did just that. They had piston engines with propellers spinning the craft around. They had Wankel engines with propellers. They had turbojets, pulse jets, ramjets, rocket engines in inboard and outboard variations, custom-made, standard aviation turbojets they were using on the Messerschmitt 262 plane, standard rocket engines they were using for the Messerschmitt 163 rocket plane, rocket engines, probably for the V2, were used for the rocket-propelled craft that could go in the outer atmosphere. The simplicity of anti-gravity. This is probably the biggest argument that the Germans really had these things.
Okay, but then also the reports of bomber crews, Allied bomber crews, who witnessed Foo Fighters and similar disc-type craft approach as they would were in their bomb runs over Germany and France and so forth. The alleged Foo Fighters would be seen approaching the bombers from the ground. They would be coming up from German airspace rather than from above, correct?
I mean, they would be seen approaching them from everywhere because they would come from underground. They would from the ground surface level. They would be hanging on the air, waiting for the bombers to come, like glowing Christmas tree ornaments in the night skies of Germany. But they were so maneuverable, they could fast outpace. I mean, they were making probably 2-3 times the speed of sound in the atmosphere. They definitely captured a vast treasure of information from the underground bases in Germany after the war ended. I mean, they had about 300 underground facilities, according to Renato Vesco, that were huge underground cities. One of them, the Mittelwerk complex next to the concentration camp Dora, was 2 kilometers long by 1 kilometer wide. We're talking about millions of square yards of floor space, shop space.
Vladimir, let me ask you one last question here on my part. The Germans, with the technological development that they've done, there was certainly some involvement by Hitler in some very strange and unusual things. Do you believe that the Germans themselves had any type of connection with extraterrestrials or alien races during the early parts of their development programs?
Yeah, I've heard this story on numerous occasions. For example, I heard that there was a saucer crash near around Peenemünde, another saucer crash in the Bavarian Alps, which may have been used as an excuse by the German secret elite to peddle this flood of new technological information, this avalanche of information to trickle it down into German economy and industry without having to explain exactly where they got it from. But I do think that the Germans were heavily involved in, they had contact with extraterrestrials, several races probably, and the more time passes, the more I'm willing to accept the idea that basically extraterrestrials have always been in contact with the major terrestrial governments, and especially the secret societies, which are the fifth column for the introduction of a particular extraterrestrial philosophy in our society. The German secret societies like the Thule-Gesellschaft, the Vril Society, and numerous others that I don't even know, have all been in contact with different types of alien races. And from here comes this enmity and competition between terrestrial secret societies, which basically kind of support their extraterrestrial backers. By the end of the war, the Germans were working on an antimatter bomb, time machine, and many other bizarre advanced technologies, death ray, and so on, free energy. But the antimatter bombs were as big as a pineapple and strong enough to devastate the whole of New York or London, which could not be done with a small Hiroshima-sized bombs.
Right, but the question is...
so Hitler opposed the use of these nuclear bombs over England or the United States on a very racial reason. He said, we are not in the business of killing Aryans. This was the same reason he told his general staff when he opposed the German army rolling over the escaping British and French soldiers at Dunkirk in, I think, 40 or 41, when they were defeated, and Hitler stopped his armies, allowing the Allied fleet to evacuate these defeated soldiers in England and basically use them for the D-Day invasion again.
Okay, but after the war, as the war was winding down, it was obvious that the Germans were defeated. Wasn't there a secret cadre of his own Nazi SS that took this technology and took it out of the country before it could be captured by the Allies?
Oh, yeah. I think from 42, 43, the smart guys in Germany had made their own plans that they are about to lose the war. So why don't we just let's work on some escape scenario? So every new technology was tested quietly, low key. I mean low profile. For example, they tested a greenish-looking radiation, a death ray in Romania. Then they packed and crated and shipped everything to the South Pole. They would test it, make sure that it worked, and they would never try it again, and they would move it to the South Pole. So when Admiral Byrd arrived with a huge three aircraft carrier, it's a triple armada descending on the South Pole from 3 directions, they were beaten in 2 weeks and hastily retreated. I mean, probably the Germans had at least one smart move by not using these weapons in 44, 45 on the European theater, but concentrating everything they had in the South Pole theater.
Okay, now if such a technology, or if such a renegade Nazi force escaped to South America or Antarctica and has been there all this time, unassailed by any of the Allies or Soviets, that's really pushing credibility to believe that such a group could still exist on there. What kind of evidence is there?
The rumor goes that there is a large city called the New Berlin.
And why haven't they tried to complete the goals of the Third Reich in the years since then?
Well, not that they have tried, they have completed them. They have produced a master race on the South Pole, according to the rumor. They have cured diseases. They developed genetic engineering to such a perfection that, I mean, the Germans had hybrids between humans and animals 50 years ago in the concentration camps. So where are they now after 50 years? But this is a research that goes on hand in hand with the other superpower governments. My feeling and suspicion is that the tall, blonde, Nordic-looking guys that we see so often in the little gray abduction scenarios, they are in Bud Hopkins' books, they are in the UFO documentary UFOs Are Real, the Travis Walton abduction from Snowflake, Arizona, where he confronted a tall, blonde Nordic guy in the big mothership, or possibly a German South Polar colony. These are the tall blondes, in my opinion. I mean, quite probably these are the Germans from the South Pole, hand in hand with the Russians and Americans, under the guidance and tutelage of many extraterrestrial races and the overseeing celestial management centers and power structures that run the whole show.
By the time the war ended, the rumor is they had about several 100,000 slave labor from the concentration camps to work there as slaves. Elite troops, Hitler-Jugend boys and girls to be the seed of the new genetically engineered colony, the boys from Brazil colony, type of colony. Engineers, scientists, SS men, all the 9 yards of a new society which laid the beginning of that New Berlin colony.
So is there a society, is there a group in the South Pole right now?
There is a rumor that that New Berlin colony has an embassy in Washington that is on an unmanned high-rise floor. Between the 19th and the 20th floor, for example, there is one more floor that has no number and no button on the elevator. So to stop on that floor, you probably have to punch a code on the button, so use some other means. And then it stops on that unmarked floor. The door opens and you have a big sign, New Berlin, above the entrance of the embassy. I was told that they travel on Icelandic passports, being tall, blonde, blue-eyed, genetically engineered Nordics of the Superman type. They travel on Icelandic passports. All the Icelanders are blonde, for to my knowledge. And they send their kids to Harvard, Oxford, Cambridge, Yale, basically
Columbia.
the best universities in...
Where is this leading? Where's this going? Are these saucers that we're seeing?
Star Trek? Star Trek?
Are we, these saucers we're seeing, are they ours, or are they theirs, or are they something
all of the above.
Completely different?
No, it's all of the above. All of the above, but there is a major component that is built here on this planet.
Are there actual photos that survive the war that were taken of these Kugelblitz and these other flying machines?
Yes, I mean this big collection that I've got. From my trip in Germany and Austria this summer, I came with probably about 20 original photographs, some of them in color, of some of these craft, including one negative, original negative that can be done, that can be digitized and studied. The most fascinating story that came out of Germany was that not only they flew to Mars with that gross Honeybull, 70 yards in diameter Honeybull, gross Honeybull 3, not only that they probably built the SS space station, the Andromeda space station, which was basically a flying submarine. It was built by submarine engineers in the aircraft and the Zeppelin hangar near Berlin, which is 300 yards long. The space station itself is only 100 yards long, so plenty of space to build it there. But the Vril Society developed a unique and very advanced series of craft that started with a Vril 7, which were about 40 yards in diameter. The second prototype was given a name, Vril Odin. Odin is the Scandinavian god of thunder. The crafts were named Vril, and Vril in Germanic language means the life force. Basically, craft utilizing the never exhaustible, always automatically replenishable life force. And then in a book on ancient occult, German occult traditions, they had a chart of the runic characters, and this is the runic character for the life force. So it all drives together. The name of the craft, Vril, the meaning of the word Vril, and the pictorial symbol on the bottom all mean the same thing, the life force. So we were able to decipher this little puzzle here. 17 of the Vrils were produced. Quite probably they were tested quietly, low-key testing, and then they were flown to the German South Polar colony. We will talk about it in detail pretty soon. And these are low-level photographs, the first real photographs of such craft in low-level flights over the testing grounds in Germany. It's probably the autumn of 1944. The leaves are gone from the trees. In this photograph, we can see the head of the pilot through the transparent perspex cupola of the craft. A very steep maneuver. Possibly the craft is moving in this direction upward because of all the edges. These and these edges are blurred. This happens usually with the edges, with the attacking and the trailing edge of the craft.
What are those lines underneath?
Parts of the drive. In this enlarged photograph, we see an even better picture of the pilot inside. These two dark spots here could be the sunglasses that the pilot was wearing. The craft could go 2,900 kilometers in the atmosphere, almost 2 times the speed of sound. It definitely had exoatmospheric and orbital capabilities. And I have a suspicion that these were free energy craft that did not need any fuel to fly. Once they were started and put in motion, I mean their gravity drives were activated, they did not need any more fuel to run. And we can see low-level flights, probably the autumn, early autumn of 44, the leaves are still on the trees. This visible asymmetricity here, if we divide the craft, it looks like the cabin has been blown backward by a strong wind, or it's kind of a cake melting in our refrigerator, just taken out of the fridge. Bigger craft, the Honeybull 2 type craft, which were 25 meter diameter, about 75 meter diameter tank killers, were also produced. They had one big drive, a ball in the middle, which was a tachyon drive, an electromagnetogravitic drive, which they were calling the tachyon drives. The Thule tachyonators. The Thule tachyon drives were produced on assembly lines. They had an assembly line production of tachyon drives in their AEG and Siemens plants in 44 and 45. So in these underground caverns, they had more than enough space and fantasy and guts to build all these incredible flying machines. Armaments were added. These are machine guns in 3 turrets. On this photograph, we see some of the armaments here clearly visible. Something is sticking menacingly from the underside of the craft. A shot from the underside shows the Luftwaffe cross, either the 4 legs or 4 small machine gun turrets, and something that looks very suspicious. Something here that we would see very soon resembles like a tank turret with a gun sticking out. These were really the tank killers of the Honeywood II type. They were designed to fight whole tank armies. The skeptics would say, well, it's impossible to, what a stupid idea. It's impossible to put a tank turret on a saucer because it would never lift off. A tank turret is about 10-15 tons. It's alone is 2/3 or maybe half the weight of the tank. However, the Germans claimed that these craft were 100 tons in weight, armed with brute steel plates. They did not have developed at the time the force field shields around the craft that they developed later on. That's why they're relying on brute steel armor. All the wars have been planned, financed, organized, orchestrated, managed, and run by a script, like a Hollywood film production is run by a script, by the secret societies and the bankers behind them.
Welcome to Exo News TV. I'm Michael Sala. William Tompkins worked for US Navy intelligence during the Second World War. He participated in top-secret debriefings of Navy spies embedded within the Nazis' most advanced aeronautical projects. Tompkins' job was to disseminate a summary of the debriefings to different US aviation companies and think tanks in order to help them better study and evaluate the many aeronautical projects underway in Germany. In his autobiography, Selected by Extraterrestrials, Tompkins has provided documents supporting his remarkable claims, including a copy of his mission orders that verified that he was indeed tasked to act as a disseminator of aircraft research and information. Tompkins also provided in his book copies of passes to enter and leave the Naval Air Station in San Diego with multiple packages. This substantiates his claims that he was carrying intelligence briefing packets to select US corporations and think tanks. The Navy spies revealed many astonishing facts to Tompkins and his superiors about the aerospace technologies being developed in Nazi Germany. Among the most remarkable is the Nazis were receiving assistance from an extraterrestrial race described as reptilians, who were acting as consultants in various German aerospace projects. In an exclusive interview with Exo News TV conducted in San Diego on February 25th, Tompkins for the first time revealed publicly the role of reptilian extraterrestrials in Nazi projects. The following interview extract features Tompkins answering questions from Dr. Robert Wood and myself.
The fact that the Germans were given this information from the reptilians, set up the program, they signed a program to support Germany, and they're giving Germany UFOs.
Was that alleged fact in any of the briefings that you delivered?
Yes.
What?
Yes.
Did the Navy spies, for example, how did they know that there was a reptilian extraterrestrial species helping the Germans?
Say that again, I want to hear it.
How did the Navy spies learn about reptilian extraterrestrials helping the Nazis?
This is a extremely well-developed program and documented like crazy. And getting copies of the document was hard for them, but for our spies. But this was an open program in the upper level of the SS.
But it was compartmentalized too.
Yeah, so yeah, completely compartmentalized, but it was well known there. People who had to do the work had no knowledge at all of what it was for. It's that they had to go do it. And so floated it up just like it was feather. And so their learning curve showed that you can do these things all over using totally different standard mathematical or standard technical terms of the way you normally do it. And so thousands and thousands of different engineering groups were working different aspects of all of this. Just one second. Some of them had the vehicles. Others, they gave them the vehicle to reverse engineer. And so that they could become familiar with everything from the inside out. And so that different people, different organizations could handle this in different manners. I mean, it was a massive program. And the mission was to take over the planet, kill off all the ones that are a problem, the rest of them make slaves out of them. Everybody on your planet. Then, second phase was to leave the planet with large squadrons of UFOs after you've got them all built, and do the same thing to other stars, planets. That's the German one. Now,
in the next episode of XA News TV, we will hear from William Tompkins how the Nazis developed flying saucer technologies that operated out of secret bases in Antarctica that were capable of traveling to the moon, other planets, and even distant star systems.
Okay, so fast forward to today. Right now, we're in the midst of a war. We've learned that our government has been infiltrated by a fifth column. We call them communists, but we know that above that is the Illuminati. And they also are Nazis. We look at the CIA, born from the OSS, Nazis. We look at NASA, Werner von Braun, Nazi. CDC, Nazi. FBI, is that born from the Gestapo? It's like they just came on over here and continued on in secret. And the American people had no idea. And now we're stuck here with these this government that's become tyrannical, and it's terrorizing Americans, and it's no longer working for us. It's obviously working for the New World Order, which is their ultimate plan. And, you know, the evidence is everywhere. We're clearing DUMBs, deep underground military bases, and tunnels. You know, that knowledge came from the Nazis. They're the ones who started all that in Antarctica. And then the child trafficking, the organ harvesting, adrenochrome, all the cloning technology has Nazi all over it. Hybrids, where they were doing that, Dr. Mengele was doing that back in Germany in the concentration camps, you know, doing experiments on humans, which is what they're still doing with the CDC and the vaccine programs and the viruses that they're creating and patenting. I mean, it's all out there. It's all criminal, every bit of it. And it seems like all the cults, the covens, they all just fell into the whole satanic ritual abuse system that exists as well. These German families that came over, you know, set up these satanic ritual systems and covens, cults, and just joined forces with the Illuminati. And remember, the Illuminati are the reptilian human hybrids. And so it's as if a deal was struck. And they created this symbiotic relationship where the Illuminati, now combined with the Nazis, in exchange for technology and assistance and money, they would feed the reptilians, you know, fear and humans, blood, you know, all the things that the reptilians live on, because they're probably demonic or they're controlled by demonics. And so it's this back and forth. For technology, we give you this, you give us that. And that's the war we're in right now. We're fighting against the Illuminati and the Nazis and the reptilians, which probably, again, controlled by demonics, because it's all Luciferian, it's all occultish, you know, biblical. So, and Project Paperclip, that was the program that would create these groups like the NASAs and the CIA and the pharmaceuticals, and, you know, all headed by a reptilian probably, or a demonic, which is hence why they have the sigils. The sigils have symbols of the demonics on them, if you didn't notice that. They, you know, symbols will be their downfall. They mark everything with symbols. It's like a claiming of something. So that's where we are. That's my theory of what's going on right now. I had a strong feeling that Nazis were all up in this. I just think they all combined forces, and after World War II, with Project Paperclip, they then began the New World Order, you know, working towards the New World Order and infiltrating every aspect of our society, even Hollywood. I mean, and they, you know, the Nazis were all about mind control. Well, what is MK Ultra? Mass mind control. I mean, it has Nazi written all over it. And then you have people like Jessie Sabodar talking about how she grew up in a satanic ritual abuse family with connections to Bavaria and Germany and bloodlines and government. So, I mean, you hear it all, you listen to it all, you start to make those connections. You can see the connections. And that's what we're fighting. We're fighting this cabal, but the cabal, you know, encompasses basically the reptilians and the demonics and gosh knows what else. And it is biblical. So that's my theory. You know, if you have any comments, put them in the comments section. I could be wrong, but it just makes the most sense to me. And thank you for listening. Hi, Patriots. I just wanted to say thank you to all of those who have supported this channel. I hope you're enjoying the videos, and if you would like to make a donation to support the channel, there is a PayPal link in the description below. And thank you again, and I'll see you on the next video.